Hello, welcome again to today's IG Live Ask the Experts. Today we're going to be talking with Dr. Laura Berman, who is a sex therapist. And I don't know what happened to the last recording, but we're going to try this again. So that was very funny. I've got our communications manager, Maya, on live, and I have no idea what just happened, but I had to restart it because that was ridiculous. I wouldn't be able to have a serious conversation about sex and intimacy with my face looking like that. Dr. Laura, can you please invite? Okay, there you go. Oh, man.
That was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Like,
I don't know how I did it, but I should do that again.
I
I
think
can't do
you
this
should. And
anymore.
then, but what was so funny is you laughing, saying, I can't stop it.
I don't know what I did. It was
So
awful, but
funny.
I was like, I cannot do this for 30 minutes. I
No,
cannot.
I really wanted you to, though. It'd be really funny. Oh my God.
Now my stomach is hurting from laughing. That's
Ah,
awesome.
that was really funny.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
I'm going to go
and
back to
nobody's
talk.
going to know what happened when you post this later. Basically, she started a live a second ago and had to stop it because he had some crazy filter on that she couldn't turn off and looked like a fish.
And
I
you
mean,
know
what
what? You
was
couldn't see
that?
anything from my face except for my eyes. It was hilarious. It was awesome.
Anyway,
Oh, it was great.
yeah,
So,
that was a
Dr.
good
Laura
one.
Berman, let's talk about sex and your newest book, Sex Magic.
Yes,
Oh, it's so great. I loved it so much. And I can't wait for everybody to read it because oh, look at how many pages I dog eared. Yeah,
I
people.
love it.
This is all
Are
the
those
stuff
the
that
exercises you're going to try?
yes, among many. And the beautiful thing is that we can just keep trying and trying and trying.
Yeah, that's right. It takes a little, it's easy. It's actually not hard. It comes really naturally, but you have to practice it a little bit first to kind
Yeah,
of get the mind body connection.
just like everything in life. You know what?
Yeah,
Practice makes things better.
yeah, for sure.
I'm up for it. Okay, so thank you for joining us, Dr.
Of
Berman.
course.
And for those that are with us, I'm watching the chat live. This is your opportunity to ask this sex expert your sex questions. Yes, please. Come on, come on.
Yeah, come on and ask.
All right. So we've already received some great questions. So we'll go through those. And
Yeah.
if you're live, please ask. Okay. So first question is, how can I reconnect with my sexual energy after long periods of disconnection?
Yeah, that's really common, and I love the way the question is phrased because even if you're in a relationship, whether you're in a relationship or not, when you've had a disconnect, especially from your own sexuality, much less in your relationship, it starts by coming back into your own body and into your own sexuality. So, step one, and you and I have talked about this before, embodiment, right? Coming
Mhm.
back into your body. There's so many practices in the book around grounding, around coming back into your system. And then also attuning sensually again, which is part of embodiment, right? So you're starting to really tune in to all five of your senses. So, when you're sitting, how, what I'm smelling, what I'm hearing, the breeze on my skin.
Mhm.
When I'm eating this orange, I'm watching the juices, squirt a little bit. When I peel, I'm smelling the orange. I'm eating it really slowly, like just getting really into your senses, even just for 5 minutes at a time, is such a big part of sensuality. And then begin
Mm.
to slowly start, maybe it starts, depending on how disconnected you've been, maybe it starts with just taking a really long, sensual, good smelling candlelit bath. Maybe it's rubbing oils, all anointing yourself all over your body and spending like a really nice period of time, even with some nice music, instead of just quickly putting moisturizer on, sensually and lovingly putting oils on your body. Then maybe you progress to self stimulation. But a lot of it is about awakening that energy back inside you. And the book gets into, I mean, it starts with creating and building the sexual energy inside yourself. And
Yes.
then you move into building it between the two of you. And that's how I teach it in the book as well. And then that's not to say, like, if there are issues with trauma or inhibitions or other things, like sometimes you need a little bit of help from someone outside, or there's been real discord or disconnect in your relationship. You need the help of a good coach or a therapist who really understands this to help you kind of get things back on track.
Yeah. There's so many things you talk about in the book about that. It's like getting back into yourself. I was thinking about just things that I've just been doing this year for myself. It's like, I'm thirsty.
Mm-hmm.
Robin, okay, have a drink of water. Like sometimes it's simple things, or it's like I'm been at my desk. I need to stand up now, or I
Yes.
need to go pee. And sometimes I will hold it for like another. I've got another half an hour of work to do. What the heck, man?
Yes.
I can go pee quickly and come back to my desk. Like that's not really honoring myself, is it? If I'm not paying
No.
attention to my own body.
And it's so, you'd be shocked at how common it is, in
Yeah.
particular, as you can imagine, with high achieving people. I mean, the CEOs, especially the guys, but women too, that I work with, when we're sort of talking about this kind of thing, I'll say, well, like, how often do you go to the bathroom? That is one of the assessment questions that I think about when I ask
Oh,
them, for this reason, because they will very often say to me very proudly, oh, I can go all day without going to the bathroom, because they aren't allowing themselves a break or a shift, and not realizing that when you allow yourself to stand up or pee or be in your body and be fully embodied, you are so much more effective and efficient and creative and attuned and so many other things, because your body is your, like your transmitter and your receiver, your transceiver.
yes.
So it's so important.
Yeah. I've always struggled with shame around sex.
Mm.
Where do I even begin to shift that?
Yeah, shame is the so common. It's so mixed up with our sexuality, which is so heartbreaking, usually because of the way we were raised and or because of trauma we experienced that we have internalized as our fault. Because sexual trauma, while not wanted, felt good usually, unless it was really, horrific and violent. But most of the time, it's kind of the attention feels good, the arousal feels good. You may have kept going to that neighbor's house because you like the attention and you like the candy you got afterwards, and it messes you up because you start combining pleasure with lack of empowerment, with shame, all in your head, or imagining that you asked for it or that you wanted it. None of that is true. So that's one reason I find people have shame. But the most common universal reason is because you were raised to feel bad about your body, or that it's somehow sinful, bad, wrong, dirty to be sexual. And in those cases, it's really about learning to recognize and identify those shame based beliefs, and externalizing them outside yourself is really important. So you write them all down, all those stories about why you should be ashamed to want what you want, to ask for what you want, to do certain behaviors, whatever those shames are sexually. And then in the next column, write down where those stories came from. It was from, my church group growing up. It was from my teacher in school. It was from the conversations I overheard between my parents, or my parents and their friends, or things that my mother said to me, or whatever. You write those all down. And in the third column, after looking at that, which of these do you really still subscribe to as the adult, totally empowered version of yourself that you are now? And most of them, not all of them perhaps, but most of them, you will say, no, this isn't me anymore. And it is amazing. It's shocking almost how effective that can be, because the next time, now you've externalized those shame filled stories, and the next time they bubble up, you're like, oh, no, that was one of those stories that
Mhm.
I got at church group when when they told me I was going to hell if I touched myself. And I don't believe that. So that's not me. I'm not going to subscribe to that. And it becomes a really beautiful, empowering process.
Sometimes, like you said, it's so much the awareness is so key. And it can be that Simple,
Yeah, I
right?
talk a lot about trauma and releasing the blocks to intimacy in the book because it is something, that's the biggest issue that people face. And so we can't really talk about pleasure without talking about the blocks to pleasure.
Oh, yes, for sure. How do I rebuild desire in a long-term relationship where things have started to feel flat?
Mm, get the
You
book.
talk a lot about that in the book.
I talk a lot about that. And that's a big reason. That's really probably the biggest reason I wrote this book is to help couples realize because I'm seeing so many monogamous relationships who really want monogamy and believe in monogamy and are committed to monogamy put their relationship at risk because of a lack of excitement in the relationship. So they're bringing in a third partner, they're swinging, they're opening the relationship. And I mean, I'm not against any of those things, but it requires such a degree of emotional, intelligence, healthy communication, honesty, clarity, I mean, very few people can effectively pull that off,
I would
honestly.
say so.
But unless you both come into the relationship wanting an open relationship and that's how it starts and begins and finishes, fine. But for most of these relationships, you're in a monogamous relationship and now you're just trying to get the connection back. And so that's why I wrote this book, because when you practice what I teach, you are creating a level of vulnerability, intimacy, and energetic connection that creates tremendous erotic excitement. However, if you are someone where you've been in a sexless relationship for some time
Mhm.
and there's been a big valley that's kind of built between the two of you, it can be really hard to cross that crevasse. It can
Right.
feel awkward or cringy or uncomfortable, or you don't know where to start. And there a good sex therapist or couples therapist can teach you really simply how to and kind of take charge of your relationship and walk you through the process of reconnecting. I mean, I've written a lot of books about that in the past too. Real Sex for Real Women has a lot of that in there also. That was a book I wrote several years ago. But it's not hard to reconnect if you're both willing, if that valley has been built between the two of you. If it hasn't and you're just feeling a lack of excitement and things are feeling a little dull and kind of disconnected, then sex magic will totally help you get back on the right track,
Yeah.
an even better track.
An even better track. Yeah. Can sexual energy be used for healing, not just pleasure?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the high sexual arousal and orgasm. I mean, I'm nervous about saying these words on Instagram just because they may not show this to a lot of people. They're so picky about they'll show TNA, but they won't let us say these scientific words.
Mm.
But arousal and explosion, let's say, are the highest frequency your body can hold. And so it's extremely healing energy. I mean, look, Marvin Gaye sang about it, sexual healing.
Yep.
And it's master manifestation energy because as you're in those higher frequencies, lots of things heal. And the practice of manifesting through arousal and orgasm is an ancient practice. People have been writing about it at least for several hundred years, but it's been around forever. And it's really because the key to manifesting anything, including health, is by matching a high energetic frequency in your body with an intention you're holding. And so when you do that using sexual energy, it's a way to supercharge your manifestations. And so I talk a lot about that in the book too, about how to actually manifest things using sexual energy, including health.
And so what about what you're saying when it comes to our health or healing something in you that has just like
Yes.
been right, like an emotional wound.
Mhm.
Are you saying that you want to be intending that?
You can be an A intending that for sure. And being in a higher frequency state is healing for your body,
Right.
right? So let's say you have a health condition that you want to move through. I mean, I'm not suggesting you don't take physical action or medical action if that's indicated, but that if you combine that um, with with living in a higher frequency. I mean, this is how people living with cancer. One of my favorite examples is a woman named Chris Carr, who I think
Hmm.
has been living for almost over 20 years with terminal cancer, thriving. And
Yes.
her whole story, she wrote a book years and years ago called Crazy Sexy Cancer. And her whole story is about how she stays healthy. Yes, she eats healthy, she exercises, she takes care of her mental health, but she lives in a high frequency, joyful place. Not all the time. It doesn't mean she's ignoring things that come up that she has to deal with, but that she chooses to live in these higher frequency states, and that keeps us healthy.
Yes. Yeah. I know that's true.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm in high frequency, you know, most of the time. Shit happens. It's life, right?
yeah, of
But I
course.
also feel like because of my relationships are so strong, like I just have such a things are good. I've got a positive attitude, and and that way I'm able to really I'm aware of what my triggers when they're coming up. I want to deal with that, right? And I want to heal that.
Yes,
And part of
yes,
and yeah, and we could do that with our intimacy, with our sex too.
yeah,
The
absolutely.
magic, Laura.
The magic is there for the taking.
I want more passion in my relationship, but I'm scared my partner won't be open to change.
Mm.
Where do I start?
You start with a conversation,
Mm.
and I like to bring these things up in a really positive way. So you're not going to be like, I feel like we have no connection. That immediately puts them on a defense. You can
Mm.
say, I've been feeling you say what your story is, you say what feelings that story is creating in you, and then you say what you want. Just three things. So you would start like, I have a story that we've been disconnected for a while sexually, and I feel a lot of sadness. So you're not pointing the finger of blame at them. I feel a lot of sadness about it and a lot of longing and whatever other feelings you're feeling. And what I want is to find a way back to each other. I really want to put some attention. You take your 100% responsibility, right? Don't put, and just invite them. So you say, I really want to put my attention on creating more intimacy, physical intimacy between us, and really connecting more deeply. Would you be open to that? Right now you're opening the door to a conversation, and then if they say no, then you got other issues to deal with.
Mm.
If they say yes, then or maybe, then you're like, okay, well, what would that look like? Let's think about that. I have this great book that we could bring into it. We could go and see a therapist. We could, try to read some books and look at some videos and figure things out together. Like, let's brainstorm together. Now you're on the same page. But it starts with a conversation, and it starts with all good things, including intimacy, starts with being willing to be vulnerable. And so you are opening the door to vulnerability by saying what you're longing for and wanting and how you're feeling, and inviting your partner to do the same. So that's where it starts, is with that conversation. And then you can start trying things or exploring things or finding someone to support you.
Yes. So many great tools there. We talked about amazing things on the podcast recording,
Yeah.
Dr. Laura. And one of the things you said was you've been practicing some of these things without your husband knowing it, right? Like
Yeah.
you're in your high frequency and you're
Yeah.
coming to your sexual experience with him, wanting to see how this is going to work, and then after he's like, oh, what happened there, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes
I'd be
it's
like, you know
like,
what I did?
yeah, you're changing yourself and you're being very
Yeah.
intentional. So sometimes it is that too, right?
Yeah, no, you can absolutely. And this is what I wrote. I mean, all of this, like my husband, my nickname for him is Senior Root Chakra because he is so pragmatic. I love this about him. He is
Yeah.
so pragmatic. He is so in reality. He does not believe in any of the more metaphysical stuff that I live in and operate from. But he doesn't criticize it or fight. He just pets me on the top of my head, go on with your bad self. And I don't need to convince him it's true. And he doesn't try to convince me it's not. But with quantum love too, I mean, the reason I ultimately wrote Quantum Love, it started because I was working with how I could I accidentally discovered that if I changed what was going on energetically in me, it actually helped my son, my eldest son, who at the time was suicidal, and then it also helped my other kids who were struggling. And then I looked over at my husband and I was like, hmm. And so then I started experimenting with him and I started realizing he responded. It was like a Jedi mind trick for our relationship, for me. If I wanted him to show up a certain way, I would envision that as if it was happening in first person present. I would move my body into the feeling state as if it were actually happening, and I would hold that and he would just and train. And I explain in Quantum Love all the science of how this works and why it particularly works with people who are close to you and in love relationships, because they really automatically match you. So if you start practicing these things and moving into this more open-hearted, loving space, or even the space of someone who's feeling passionate or feeling playful or feeling adventurous, whatever you want more of in your relationship, if you are embodying that energy, you are now a magnet for more of those experiences, more people, friends, things that match that energy, and your partner will start matching you there. It's astounding how well it works.
Yeah. Oh, we've all experienced it in some form. I know it. So that's just great. I feel disconnected during sex. How can I start to feel more present and alive in my body
Yeah, I would go back to what I was saying
or
to the
embodiment?
woman. Yeah, around sensuality. It's the same prescription. However, and I alluded to this before, but I think this person is probably one of those people when we are disassociated, when we are really not in the building, not in the body at all, off somewhere, or you lose time, or you've had sex and you suddenly realize I was barely here. There probably is a history of trauma where you, thank goodness, learned, or else you may not have emotionally survived it. It's a survival mechanism to leave our minds and go to la la land or somewhere else in our minds so that we don't have to deal with the reality of the trauma that's happening. The problem with that is that it continues even when we're in a loving relationship until we learn how to come back into our bodies. And if you have a history of trauma and you haven't been in your body and you start to come back into your body, some of those feelings may come up to be
Mm.
cleared and felt, and you may want to get some support for doing that. But it absolutely can and should be done. It's such a beautiful part of healing. And life will get so much more joyful and fulfilling and connected and tapped in and tuned in when you do.
Oh, that's that's really great. I feel like I've outgrown the way I've experienced sex in the past. How do I explore something deeper and more aligned with who I am now? Hmm. That's yeah, this is why
Yeah,
you talk
I mean,
about it
listen, we
being.
didn't even plant these
No,
questions. These are real
I know,
questions.
Laura. But
Um,
you do talk about this. I mean,
No, that's
actually,
why I wrote the book, because
yes.
there's like, traditional intimacy in the 3D. I do this to you, you do this to me, I do this to you. We know it works, it feels good. Maybe we're going to try new tips, tools, toys, fantasies, role plays. Fantastic. I have no problem. I love those. I've written 8 books on all of those. I think they're great. And not necessarily a but, there is next level available to us where you can move the sensations of arousal through your entire body, out the top of your head, circle it between you, pull the energy from your partner's genitals into yours up to your heart, share it from your heart into theirs, and create a circle. I mean, next level erotic experience that makes sex almost metaphysical,
Yes.
and a full body experience.
This is why I'm like, okay, this is why I said to you, I might need to postpone this podcast because I got to practice this stuff and I'll tell
Right.
you about it.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to come back and give a report.
We will. We'll do that. Okay, somebody in the chat's asking this question. I can only orgasm if I fantasize about someone else, no
Mm,
one specific, but
yeah.
not able to be present with my partner while he's trying to pleasure me.
Yeah.
What to
So
do?
sometimes it's that there, okay, so it could be that there are intimacy blocks between you and your partner, right? That there are ways in which you're self-conscious, especially since you're saying he's pleasuring you. A lot of women struggle with being pleasured. They feel like I'm taking too long, or, this is too hard, or I don't like, it's hard for us to receive. We're taught not to just,
Yes.
not, I can't just lie back and receive. I got to be doing something to you, or this is
Mm.
taking too long, or I'm a burden, or whatever, right? Like we get all these stories in our minds, and that can take us out of it. So that's the simplest, most straightforward explanation. Another reason is because there's disconnect between you and your partner. And maybe you're not that attracted to them, not even necessarily because they're unattractive. That could be that they've changed, that they've gained a ton of weight, or something is going on with them that just physiologically you're not as attracted to them. Or you're not, more likely it's that an emotional disconnect or discord that's making you maybe not feel as present with them. And the other, maybe you're needing some excitement because it's become so predictable. Like I was saying before, you did this to me, I do this to you. It's become so routine that you're inserting some spice by fantasizing. And by the way, nothing wrong with fantasy, right? As long as you don't want to act on it. If it's just
Mm.
an erotic fantasy, there's nothing wrong with that. The only thing that is concerning is if it's required, like you say, in order to get aroused and reach orgasm, because what you're essentially doing is disconnecting from the scenario and you're doing a version of disassociation, right? You're
Mhm.
doing a version of going to a different place. I'm not really here with my partner. I'm with this other random partner. I'm not really, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you really want to create that erotic intensity while still being fully present and attuned, and have it even deepen the connection between the two of you, that is where the book comes in.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna. You got your book behind you. I've got my copy that's gonna be backwards, but I just really hope that everybody reads this book because,
Yeah.
I, you know, I having a healthy sex life, is part of our well-being. Like it's like something
Yes.
that yes, and it's just so. And your book really helps us understand it from this holistic point of view.
Yeah,
Like
it really
and
is. It's key to
yes,
general health and well-being, emotional health and well-being, certainly relationship health and well-being. It's good for heart disease, depression, anxiety, nerve function, so many things. But it's also something that can really create a level of fulfillment inside of you and between the two of you, and help you manifest that which you desire,
yes,
whatever it is, in or
help
out
you
of the bedroom.
manifest. Yeah. Well, thank you, Dr. Laura
You're
Berman.
welcome. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy that you came, and we're going to learn so much more from you from your book. So thank you. Enjoy your afternoon, everyone.
Bye.
Love to you. Bye.